everyone. We are again here with our fourth sutra of Upnishad with me. Uh, Tal has joined from Haifa, Israel, and I am Abnish from Eilat, Israel. So today, as usual, we will be going through the fourth sutra of Upnishad, and we'll be reading between the lines and trying understanding what that means. So it's a kind of six-line sutra, and it's a continuation of our last session where we covered to the third sutras of Upanishad. So, yeah, Talk, the podium is to you. Would you like to read it for the audience?
Yes, I'll begin now.
Yeah.
That one, though motionless, is swifter than the mind. The senses can never overtake it, for it ever goes before. Though immovable, it travels faster than those who run. By it, the all-pervading air sustains all living beings.
So it's a it's a good paragraph in the terms of fantasy, in the terms of
Yes.
science fiction, in the terms of
Mm-hmm.
what is not normally we feel. We may dream about it like. So I will go it with once for my understanding. That one, though motionless, is shifted in the mind. The sense can never overtake it, for it goes before, for it ever goes before. Though immovable, it travels faster than those who will run. By it, all pervading air sustains all living beings. So there are some statement I would like you to clarify for me because so one line which I would request you to clarify me before we jump into reading between these lines. The one is like I understand this line. So what the lines which I will not, which I do not understand, I will ask you to explain for me in plain English. Like that one, though motionless is swifter than the mind. I understand this thing. The sense can never overtake it. I understand this thing. For it ever goes before. I don't understand this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
clarify.
Well, when we talk about if it ever goes before, that seems to be a conflict with the first line that it's motionless. If it's motionless, it's not going. And
So
then the
what
next line, it travels faster. It's also a conflict.
So what it means essentially like for it ever goes before accounting to the previous line. Like it says the sense can never overtake it. It means something which is motionless. So the sense can never
Mm-hmm.
overtake that motionless. For it ever goes before.
Mm-hmm.
What
So
that means? What
perhaps the clue is what comes in the following line. Um, or maybe it was from a previous sutra that we read that when we think about uh, whatever that is, it is in everything in the universe. And therefore, before we get there, it's already there because it's in everything in the universe.
all right. So it means like for it here means the one which is motionless
Mm-hmm.
ever
And
goes
it's
before.
referring
Uh,
to that
So
that we
here
read about before.
so what is
The
ever
one that
here?
is the one that was in the first sutra. We described it as
Not Fast Sutra.
what
I'm trying to understand. For it ever goes before, like the ever here is some kind of a third person or some kind of pronoun. I mean, third
um,
person is pronoun. Yeah.
ever is explaining the verb. I think it's called adverb. It's
It's an
telling the
adverb.
time. Yeah,
So it
it's
ever
telling the
goes
time.
before. So
It's
it
like
means
ever is
so
like always.
it so essentially this line is meaning whatsoever is there in this cosmos, who
Um,
anything
I
who is
think it
going, it
is.
is always before it.
Yeah, because it is already there.
All right.
It's
So
like,
though immovable, it travels faster than those who run. By it, the all pervading air sustains living beings. So all pervading. Why why it the all pervading air sustains all living beings. What that lines essentially connecting to the other lines. I understand this line, but what is the context before context of this line to the line which comes before?
this is an important flaw. I think you have identified a problem and a flaw because the ideas are separate ideas. They don't connect to each other.
So what is the meaning of this thing in a simple English?
In simple meaning, it's saying by it, the all-pervading air sustains all living being. It's like the absolute is giving sustainment to everything that's alive, but it does not connect to the idea before. It's just a separate idea describing the absolute.
So it means that that absolute is pumping or kind of providing life in a life and sustainability to the life in some form. Yeah.
Right. Like the idea here reminds me of the idea that um one of the three head gods in Hindu is uh is Vishnu. So I think Vishnu is the one that's sustaining, and the idea here seems to be the same, doing whatever purpose that Vishnu does, but it does not connect to the section before.
Hmm.
And section before is it seems to me a self-contradictory conflict. You cannot say something is motionless and that it also travels. You would need to say it's already in every place.
Okay,
When we
so
say it's everywhere, it's always. It's
so
describing the action.
so we will do the autopsy of this line as usual we were doing. So
Mhm.
for me, like there are two things which needs an immediate clarification, and
Yeah.
those are I have underlined that
Yes.
one.
It seems to me a conflict. If they want to give an idea, they should be using different words.
Okay, so actually I am not kind of following you because I it's very hard for me to first digest this paragraph. There
Mm-hmm.
are two reasons because as you tell them, they are contradictory, conflicting lines are there, and the lines are little ambiguous to understand. Maybe they want us to remember the earlier sutras that we have learned in this line of sessions. That is one
Mm-hmm.
thing. Other thing is the English is little uh, kind of very, I should not say tough, but very indicative. They don't want to write the things clearly in context. They want to indicate something through the words. Eventually, everybody do this thing. Sometimes what you do, you have a message in mind, but you don't want to write it fully, so you will write it in an encrypted form. That is the indicative form, and leave it to the reader. He will decrypt itself. So it's
If they want to say symbolism,
yeah. So that one, though motionless, is swifter than mind. First, we need to understand what mind is here, because there is a new word which comes across. Because that one, we know the always author is uh, indicating toward absolute. So that
mm-hmm.
one here is absolute, and the mind we don't know. Like at least so far we have not discussed. The sense can never overtake it. So mind and sense. What guy mean by sense?
Well, it seems to me that the mind is like the same moment that I see something with my eyes, I know that I see it. There, it's very quick and swift, and it doesn't take any delay. Instead, immediately when I see something, I can see through the window, and immediately my mind knows what I'm seeing.
So let's talk this thing. First. That one, it means the absolute. It means the
Hmm.
absolute, which is very much objective, which is
Yeah,
not relative to anything, which doesn't need any reference point for his existence.
exactly.
Though motionless, it means it is not moving. It's swifter than the mind. First, at the platform of spirituality, being motionless means it's something else rather than being motionless on the platform of physicality. What we understand by motion is like when you uh, when you move between 2 points, like from point A to point B, you move in space time, and if during that time you are observing the journey of that particle, then you will say it's in motion.
Yes,
However, you are constantly seeing, let's say, your observation time was 10 seconds or 10 minutes or 10 days, and you see the point is sticking to the point A, then it means that the particle is not in motion, it's motionless.
exactly.
So that is the simple definition of motion in this 3D system of access, and this is how we perceive motion. There is an observer who is observing something, and in a particular time interval, that particle do not move from its location. Then you term it as motionless. Or maybe like you observe at five, you not observing continuously, you were observing in a discrete time stamps like 1 second, after 2 seconds, after 3 seconds. Every time you are seeing it at the same positions. Maybe the thing coming, maybe the time you are taking for observation, the thing return to its original position. You
Right,
see,
it changes.
so every time, so there is a need for continuum of time, not a discrete time. So even like things can appear motionless in this 3D system of observation. And
Yes,
though I want to talk more about on the spiritual platform, what is meaning with motionless. So, I would like to ask you what you mean by motionless in, at your experience, like in physical world you are observing a body, it means there are two bodies, like two entities which you are observing. Let's say you discard that body and you yourself start observing. There are some things which are running inside you, like the blood is running inside you, it's in motion. The heart is
right,
located at its place, but is a rhythm, but vibrating in a rhythm. So you can call it, not, you will not call it in motion, but in some form of other motion. So
right. It is moving, even if it is not moving from point A to point B.
so these
It
are the yeah. So these are the physical materials which you think you can take it as a motion or motionless. What about your emotions? Like you feel joy,
hmm
you feel sometimes depressed or sometimes not okay. Can you consider those things as motion or not motionless?
um,
Because
it
these thoughts are
seems
running inside you.
it
Maybe
seems to me
running.
that but they can change and switch with each other. Like the worry can swap into joy, and joy can swap into worry. So there's like a motion of changing from one emotion to another, but it's not really moving from one place to another. It's just replacing each other in the same place inside each person.
So I will make things little clear. Like when we were talking about two bodies, there was an observer and there was an subject, which observer were essentially observing. So the
Yes.
observer saying the movement of these things. So he was tagging that guy as a motionless or motion in motion. Now here in when you limit that experiment to into yourself only, then the observer is not you. Observer is the mind.
Yes.
So anything which is going inside you, the mind is observing. So eventually those emotions also occurs in this brain. You don't feel happy in your leg, you feel happy over here. See, so there is a superficiality associated with understanding the motion of emotions. Eventually, they cannot like what can be in motion is something which is physical. If something which is not in physical, tagging something is in motion on in motion, whether you don't know whether it's physical or not physical, it is not a right kind of comparison or right kind of observation. Okay, you see eggplant is a kind of purple, you see apple is a kind of pink or reddish thing. Now you want to compare those things. They are different things. Like if you want to compare, bring another apple or another eggplant, then you can compare color wise, shape wise, and everything. Two things which are totally different from each other, you had not a common datum to compare them. What should be your common datum? Like you can bring a papaya and say, look, this is my common datum. If something which is closer to the papaya or away from papaya, I will tag it something like a banana is a similar shape, similar to papaya. So you can say in shape wise, banana, not banana, the eggplant is similar to the papaya. On the other hand, the apple is rounded and many other
Right.
other labels is different. So you need to bring a datum in order to compare. You
Right.
understand?
It's similar things. Then you can
Uh,
identify the
uh,
otherwise there's many differences.
I have a request. Like your sound is sometimes beating, so I would like you to take your earphone closer to you, so there is no disruption in the sound coming from your side.
To take it further distant.
Not further distance. The microphone you are using, bring it closer to you. So because every time the microphone is touching to something, it's creating a noise.
Oh, okay. I'll be more careful.
No problem. So the guy is saying the absolute which is motionless is swifter than the mind. So he is saying
But the idea of
what
being
is this?
emotional,
What is the speed of light?
the speed of light is
Yeah,
many millions of kilometers in a short
it's
time.
essentially 3.8 something into 10 raised to power minus 8 meters per second. Yes.
I don't remember the number, but I believe.
Yeah. So this is the V, which is speed of light is 3.8 multiplied by 10 raised to power 8 meters per second. So this is the distance in meters which is covered by a ray of photon, a ray of light in 1 second.
In one
You
second,
see,
it moves, and that's like the speed that I see something. The light comes to my eyes at this speed, and I see it instantly.
yeah, this is very high speed in the time frame of your reactions happening inside your eye to make an image and do this thing. This is much faster than that. So it's everything things appears to you is instantaneous.
Right. And like you said, it's faster than the eyes process.
Yeah. So let's say you're traveling through the speed of light and you want to go to the sun. How much time you will take?
So according to the books I read, the average is 8 minutes of travel.
8 minutes. So when you divide, because what essentially is distance equals to
Rate times
speed
speed
velocity multiplied
by the rate.
by time.
Okay.
So You know the distance between you and sun. You know the velocity of light because you are traveling with it. Then you will get the time, which is approximately 8 minutes, something like this. So you will take
Yes.
8 minutes itself to go to the sun. Now, now mark my words. So even the maximum possible speed which you can take in this universe is the speed of light. There are other things like who take more tachyons. They say tachyons, if I'm not wrong, who gains more speed than light. They are the super exotic particles or in a form of energy in a matter. They take more speed than like they have more speed than this photon. So there is this is somebody says this is the maximum. Um, speed of maximum speed you can take being in the system is kind of factually incorrect because tachyon thought to be not thought to be it's I don't know it's experimentally proven or mathematically deduced that there exist particles or some form of energies. I'm not sure whether how they say it's a particle or something, but it's some quantum part of matter which takes the speed which is beyond this number. So, anyways, so let's say if I say you think about sun,
Yes.
without a fraction of second you reach the sun. You did not take
Uh,
you did not take 8 minutes. Let's say you never been to sun. Let's say you've been to some other planet and you visited, like the astronaut which went to the moon. Essentially, it takes some time from moon, s- time taken by light to come from moon to the earth. Uh,
yes.
Essentially the moon doesn't have any of the planet doesn't have its light. It is what we're seeing is a reflection of sunlight. So it takes time. The reflection will take time from moon to come to the earth, but the
Yes.
astronaut will be eventually mentally went to the moon because he has been there. So the way his thoughts are traveling is much faster than light.
Right. We can
So
understand.
here the speaker tend to indicate towards your thoughts. Your thoughts are essentially swifter than the mind. One thing, but the speaker, the notion of absolute is not your thoughts. The notion is absolute, something which is beyond your thoughts, which essentially means which is beyond your mind. It's much more faster than your mind. That thing is absolute. This is the gist of one line. So, like, mind can have emotions. What mind can run is the emotions.
Yes.
So even like in the fraction of seconds you thought you are on the moon, that absolute is already there before you thought it.
Yes.
So
Absolute is
it
already there.
means it means the primary action because my action will kind of shape your reaction. What mind is doing the reaction. Who is action? The absolute is an action. So action knows what is going to be the reaction. Since action knows what is going to be the reaction, it is always there
That's
before
right.
you react.
Before we react, it's already
Because action knows what he has done,
there. Yes.
so he is prepared. Let's say I start punching you. I punch you on a face. God forbid, I should not do that to anyone. Let's say for an example, I punch you on a face. Then I know one blow is coming towards me. I am prepared now.
As a reaction.
There's a reaction because I have done the actions. I know what is going to be the reaction in the worst case
Yes.
if you survive.
Yeah, because you're expecting that
I
the
am
person
expecting, so I
will.
am prepared. So that absolute, I told you it's an objective. Only objective things can do actions. Rest of the things always do reaction. So why I'm talking why this is swifter than mine? Because this is the primary action.
Yes, it's the
So the
primary.
primary actions knows what is going to be the reaction. So it is always it will be prepared. So it will be always faster because this is the first thing this is happening. You see. So this is the justification for fast line. Why this is faster? Why this is not faster? If this is line is correct or incorrect, that is another story. We will come to this thing after. First, I want you to understand what those lines essentially means. So first line we have understand the essence of objectiveness or objectivity will always surpass the essence of subjectivity.
Yes.
So as essence of subjectivity are the reactions to the actions which have been done by some objective.
Precisely.
So the sense can never overtake it. So it means it's saying with your senses you can never understand it. Or you cannot overtake it. Mind like the senses, the mind it has some senses, emotion. He is saying it cannot ever overpass it. Like it cannot ever overtake it. It cannot reach before the absolute reaches. Of course, in order to reaction has to appear, there has to be the action. So this is the mutual understanding between action and reaction. So there is no point of saying this thing. The sense can never overtake it. I think the guy has very narrow-mindedness. He has not seen this thing in a bigger perspective. You ask me, I'm telling you, what is the existence of reactions without an action? No, it is wrong of saying that there is happening reactions. No, there is not happening reaction. There has been some actions. Thereby there are reactions. So I think there is no need for this line. The sense can never overtake it.
Yes. It is just being too poetic.
Yeah. Though immovable, it travels faster than those who will run. Yeah. Again, it's kind of a repetition of it.
Yes.
By it, all pervading air sustains living being. So I want you to again explain this thing for me. Why it, the all pervading air sustains all living beings.
So when we say the word it seems to me referring to the absolute. Um, and then if so, I don't understand why we need the air. The it is the one sustaining everything directly. So to say that indirectly the air sustains everyone, it seems to me a problem.
All right, so by it, all pervading air sustains all living beings. So it's kind of saying that it travels faster than those who ran. By it, the air pervading. By it, the all pervading air. So the all pervading. So there you see there is a hyphen between all and pervading. It's kind of not two words, kind of one word in conjunction. Why it the all pervading? Whatsoever is existing.
I guess he's trying to say that the air is in every place.
Why it
But
the all pervading air? There is very much noise from your side.
really,
By
that the absolute is in every place. But instead, he says the all pervading air. The air is in every place around us. And then another problem that I noticed is
I do
that
not understand this line. And technically, if you ask me, I actually do not understand this line. So I won't be discussing about this line today. I need to understand it first and taking to the account of time. I don't want to think about it now and tell because we are already over time. So maybe in coming lecture we will discuss this thing again. In this lecture, this line was kind of little difficult or very kind of indicative. Well, it said many things, but indicatively. So in the coming lecture, what we'll talk about this thing, the notion of subjective and objective, and why subjective always overpass why objective always overpass subjective. One thing that is kind of again saying why always actions occur then reactions, or there is a loop. Maybe action is causing reaction, or maybe reaction is causing action because as a body you always see reactions, you don't see action. So there is a kind of limitation of this body. So we will see if reactions are primary or the actions are primary, or what comes first, the actions or reactions. Because the way we perceive the reactions, according to Newton, Newton's third law, if there is action, there is always a reaction. So we know this thing from there. So we are building our understanding on that law. So we will also see if this line is factually correct. If there is action, then there is always reaction. It might be quite possible. If there is no reaction, if essentially it means there is no action. Does if does happen? Let's say I asked you something, you do not responded. I done the action from my side, but you have not responded. Maybe you do not hear it. Maybe you don't want to answer, but you do not react it. There is no reaction from your side, at least. Not answering is also a kind of reaction. Not answering is also a kind of reaction. We need to take it. However, what is the process which qualifies that this is reaction and this is action? We will be talking about those things in the coming lecture. Uh, Clinging ourselves to the notion of that one is motionless is faster than those who are being physical, or in one line that one is the absolute is faster than the mind. So we will talk about this thing in the coming lecture, and other than that we will autopsy of actions and reactions. So this is for
Yes.
today, and this lecture will come in part two, in two parts. One part we have covered, and other part we will be covering into the next session. So thank you
Yeah.
all for. If you come to up to this point, it means you have seen all the lectures. You have kind of tolerated us for 1 hour, and if you found these things interesting, it gives a kind of a kick in some size, some sense of way that if you think these things are not normally talked, then if you have some questions, then we are happy to answer them. Please to write them in the comment box. And every Saturday we record these sessions and then upload within 1 or 2 days. So you will maybe seeing this thing on YouTube after 2 or 3 days after it is recorded. So thank you again uh, for being with us. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's it. Ah.
Yes. Yeah. So